When we think of the mysteries of ancient civilizations in South America, inevitably, Machu Picchu comes to mind. And even today, it remains one of the most mysterious of the ancient sites in the southern Andes, because the more that is revealed and the more we discover, the more mysterious the site becomes. Hiram Bingham is the man from Yale University that we say discovered Machu Picchu in 1911. Although it was already known to the locals, he discovered it for the Western world. This site that was largely overgrown and under the jungle canopy, he could see portions of Machu Picchu poking up above the canopy. It's right on the edge of a rainforest, so it is typically very humid and very warm, and that is why there was so much overgrowth that was there. And the first part of the excavation was to clear that growth. They chose to do it through fire. So in 1912, the site today that is Machu Picchu was burned to reveal just how much and how extensive this site really is. And this is where the mysteries really began. From a geologic perspective, the architecture and the way that Machu Picchu was built and where it's situated is fascinating.
When I went to Machu Picchu in 2017, what's very interesting is I saw evidence of ancient structures underneath what's there now. So this tells me what I've seen all over the world, the same thing. Ancient cultures build something, megalithic, and then another culture comes after them, builds something else on top of that. And the higher you go as you're coming closer to modern era, you find that the structures become smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, Machu Picchu is still an amazing feat of technology. However, there is evidence there that beneath what we see with our eyes, there is another structure underneath that that's even older and more megalithic, leading to the fact that these Incans actually stumbled into that area and inherited what was already there. It doesn't mean that they didn't gain any knowledge by being there, but initially that area was built by a culture even far more ancient than them.
What impresses are the stones used to build the city. The working of the stones appear unusual for an Inca knowledge. The blocks are made of granite containing quartzite, that is one of the hardest material in nature. And these blocks have an average weight of 50 tons that were cut and put together in such precise way that was totally unknown to the local civilization. Archaeological evidences show that the Inca didn't have precise devices to manage the granite. That is why Machu Picchu is an enigma. But who built the city? And why the city was built? And what was its original function?
Machu Picchu is clearly one of the most important sites on the planet. It's really quite unique. Its placement within the landscape, within the sacred valley, all the beautiful mountains and scenery around it. But it's really what's built into it which is the most important, and especially the megalithic aspect, the earlier foundation of the site, which was later adopted by the Inca.
Speculation on what this sacred site was used for in our ancient past is full of myth and legend. Several areas of this temple complex seem to have been constructed by the Inca Empire. But the question is, why did they build all of the smaller stone walls and corridors to encase the ancient megalithic temple monuments? Heroes on a spiritual journey were surely tested as they made their way from the coasts of the South Pacific and climbed to nearly 1.5 miles above sea level. But why was this sacred location, deep in the mountains of Peru, chosen by our ancient ancestors before the chaos began in the atmosphere?
Machu Picchu is built in a fault zone, and it is built on the lower portion of a fault zone, literally on top of faults. And the thinking from the engineers today is that this may have been intentional because those faults allow for drainage from the water, as it's a rainforest, draining away from the site rather than the site being mired in puddles of water in the rainy season. There are over 200 buildings in Machu Picchu proper. and more are still being excavated as more of the site is being revealed from undergrowth. But of those 200 sites, what we begin to see is that the architecture is so very, very different, because it appears that Machu Picchu was not built all at one time. There was a portion that is very sophisticated stonework, similar to what we see in other parts of Peru and what we see in Egypt. Large, massive stone blocks that fit only where they are fitting with the stone next to them. They could not fit anywhere else, with intricate detail. Between the stones, there is less than 1/1000th of an inch tolerance, and there's no mortar holding these stones together. What engineers have found is that not only are they intricately interlocked, but they also are always built at an angle. There's an offset to vertical. There are no vertical walls in this old part of Machu Picchu. And the reason is because by building at the offset with these interlocking blocks, it makes them earthquake-proof. And this is one of the reasons in a geologic fault zone where there are earthquakes, why these buildings have remained for as long as they have.